Hello and welcome to the HOS Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Muncie, and this is episode 18. And today we are going to do a special episode on how to get recruited, how to get a college scholarship if you are a high school athlete looking to play sports at the next level. So joining us today on the podcast is one of our very own coaches at HOS Coach Mark Whittington. So Mark, thank you so much, man, for hanging out with us and sharing some of your wisdom.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So for everybody listening, let's tell them what certification you have recently picked up. So Mark has always been speed, agility, quickness certified. He's a performance specialist, but recently he has added a recruiting specialist certification. Mark, tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yes, the company that I'm associated with now is Carolina Collegiate Recruiters. And basically what it is a national recruiting service for student athletes that are trying to attain a scholarship or get, financial aid packages and play their sport in college. So through their program, I was able to go through both the NCAA and NAIA and get certified in recruiting. So that this is my new venture now, and I'm really excited because I see a lot of pathways to how this can link up with what I already do at HOS Strength. So I think this will be a great venture for everybody involved.
Yeah, this is we're all really excited about this, and with the number of athletes that we're training in the gym, to be able to not only give them the tools physically and mentally that they need to be able to play at the next level, but also, with the connections that you'll develop and, there's a lot involved with recruiting, and we'll be able to now extend the ability that we can help them with, and to further roll out that red carpet. There's barriers coming down all over the place. So
absolutely, yeah.
As a strength coach, as a performance specialist, I think we all feel like we have an eye for what we're looking for in an athlete to be able to play at the next level. But now with this certification, what kind of things are you looking for outside of what we may see as a coach or performance specialist in the gym?
As far as athletic performance, this is really more sports specific. So if you're working with volleyball players, you're going to look for jumps. You're going to look for more explosive metrics that you can measure to market that athlete to a coach to get a scholarship. But when we talk about in the gym, this is both in the gym and outside of the gym. We as strength coaches and as speed coaches already know what they need to work on because we have them 2, 3, 4 times a week. So we know that you need to get faster, you need to get stronger, you need to work on your vertical. But this actually fuses both what we do outside the gym and inside of the gym. Me personally, I work probably with the fewest amount of athletes at the gym now currently, but I could walk in and look at an athlete and know what they need, especially based on whatever sport they play. You guys could do that as well. The other coaches, you, Tyler, you guys could do that. But when you fuse that with what I'm doing, now I can tell them, not only do you need what we're evaluating you in the gym, but you need to take these steps in order to get noticed by coaches. Because it's a total package. It's not just, what we do. We know what we do is going to get them ready for what they're trying to attain, but it's a two-way street.
Gotcha. And so tell us a little bit about, if somebody were to come to you or any other Carolina collegiate recruiter, how does that process work?
Well, they would come to me. Obviously, I would need to speak with the parents. They need to be heavily involved in every step of the process. The first thing I do as a recruiting specialist, I need to evaluate if they're even ready to go through that process. A lot of kids may have one thing and not the other, like we were just talking about. They may be great athletes, but if they don't meet the criteria for a GPA, they don't meet the criteria for SAT or ACT testing, then we're not even going to put them through the process. They need to get their grades up, and they need to retake the test, and vice versa. If they're not ready on the field, then A, they need to keep working with us, and B, maintain what they're doing off the field or off the court of play. So once we get past that initial, step, then we can actually dive deeper into the process, because it is a very complicated process depending on what college or university that a student athlete is interested in.
Yeah, and I think we should be clear. You touched on this in the beginning, but we just want to clarify, this is not football specific or basketball specific. This is all sports. All sports,
from a collegiate standpoint.
And the recruiting process that you guys go through or take the athletes through with Carolina Collegiate Recruiters is a 3-step process. You are the first line of that process. How does explain that kind of 3-line system?
Okay, well, the first line is what we just talked about. I make sure that the student athlete is even good enough to go through the process. I don't want to put anybody through it that's not ready. But after I assess grades, video is a huge deal. We need film. Every kid that thinks they're good should have video, right? So we take that into consideration, because if you do pass through the first tier, which would be me as the recruiting specialist, then you would go to the next tier, and you would actually get a professional level assessment from a scout in the sport that you choose to play or that you're looking to play in college. So we have actual professionals from the college ranks that are college scouts and recruiters or college coaches, and then we have professional athletes or former professional coaches and scouts that will actually give you an official scouting report. If you're able to pass that, then they make you a profile on our page, which is www.carolinacollegiaterecruiters.com, and you have your own page, and by that, the connections that the people at the company have, we get and market every athlete that's ready every day to all coaches in all sports.
And you told me something really cool, where if an athlete were to get through all 3 levels and they're deemed by your organization that there's a really cool offer that you guys have. If you pay for the service after getting through all 3 levels and the recruiting service fails to get you a full ride, you get your money back for the service.
Every dime goes back. So if your student athlete does not get an official scholarship offer by the time they graduate high school, you get every dime back.
So that's a pretty cool offer right there. You can't, if you have any interest in playing college sports and you have what it takes to get through that process, you can't afford not to go with that.
No, you're paying less than $1,000 for something that could be worth tens of thousands of dollars per year.
Yes, times 4.
Yeah.
Or 5.
Exactly.
So what, with that said, I want to get into some of the common mistakes that high school athletes and their parents make in the recruiting process. And then once we go through those, let's talk a little bit about what our listeners can do to increase their chances of being recruited, being seen, and ultimately getting those offers. So give me a couple of common mistakes that you see high school athletes and parents making.
I'm glad you asked that question, because me and the president of the company, his name is Stephen Whitebread. He's actually based down in Greensboro, where I used to live. He gave me his top 5 as far as mistakes that parents and student athletes make in the recruiting process or while they fall through the cracks. And his number 1 was they play in a small area or small school, so it's harder for them to get noticed. Now, when I looked at that, I said it's all about how you use that. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes if you're in a small area or a small school, it's a lot easier for you to be the best at your sport.
Right, the proverbial big fish in a small pond.
Exactly. So you have to really push to market to get noticed outside of that. But in your area, you're the man or you're the girl that, you're the best.
Mm-hmm.
So that can work for you and against you, because if you flip it on the other side, if you're a basketball player trying to get a basketball scholarship and you're from New York City, where you can't go to a street corner where there's not a hoop and a bunch of people waiting to get a game in New York City, so it's kind of hard to get noticed in that respect as well. So he put that as his top. The second one is kind of what we do and why we are who we are, and that's not marketing yourself with a reputable company. There's a lot of services out there like us, but none do it like us. No company is going to give you back 100% of your investment if it fails. That's what we do. So his third one was coaches have little or no budget to recruit athletes, which is another reason why we have this niche. Everybody's not football and basketball. Those are your major cash cows. Those coaches have hundreds of thousands of dollars to fly all over the country and recruit who they want to recruit, especially at the top D1 schools.
Yeah, you see pictures all the time of, the top D1 football schools where the recruiting coach is jumping on a private jet and flying to meet with somebody. But, like you said, the non-revenue college sports do not have that at their disposal. The softball
coach, your track coaches, they don't, unless you're the top tier, the top 3 or 4 schools in the country, the coaches don't have the money to fly out and see you. So,
and this may be something that's in his list, but I think this is something that most people fail to realize, is that on those non-revenue sports, most of those teams have fewer total scholarships than they do uniforms.
Absolutely.
So nobody's getting full rides. If you play softball or soccer or track, any of those non-revenue sports, you're looking at a team of 20 to 50 people, and you may be looking at 8 to 10 full scholarships per season or per year. So the best you could hope for, is 20, 50, 80%.
Absolutely. That's one of the many facts that we actually talked about when I first got on, is a lot of those lower revenue sports, a lot of them have scholarships, but they're not full scholarships.
Right.
They're partials, because those sports can't afford to give full rides to the majority of the players on the team. His fourth mistake is the whole social media character issue type thing. And, we've seen that. You see that every year now. Signing day, kids, get accepted and then post something stupid on Facebook and Twitter, and all of a sudden, the scholarship is snatched out of their hand all of a sudden. So you have to be very careful about your tweets and your Facebook posts, because those are public.
Right.
And get around pretty quick.
Yeah, and they're permanent. Even if you delete it, somebody takes a screenshot and it never goes away.
Yeah, like Herm Edwards said, don't press send.
Yeah. Yeah, there was I forget where this came from, but at some point I remember somebody saying that, ask yourself 3 questions before you hit send. Does this need to be said? Question number 2, does this need to be said by me? Number 3, does this need to be said by me right now? And if any of those answers is no, then do not hit send, do not post it.
Absolutely not. You be very judicious how you use this social media. And his last one in his top 5 was missing deadlines and dates. And there's a slew of, recruiting deadlines, such as the signing period. And if you're going to do a national letter of intent, if you're a top tier prospect, you have deadlines for that commitment. You have to be cleared by the eligibility center, which we'll get into later. But also, we can't forget, you're going to college, you have to fill out an application. And those applications have deadlines, and you can't miss those if you want to start, in the fall semester. So acceptance letters and applications have to be on time.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of people probably would fail to realize, well, hey, I actually have to apply and get accepted into whatever this school is. So, I think another one that it's kind of, he touched on it, or you guys touched on it there with the deadlines, but I think a lot of people fail to realize how early in their high school career and an athletic career that they need to begin the legwork on their end for recruiting. And I think that if someone were to ask me, the one of the most common mistakes, it is waiting to be discovered, waiting for college coaches to find you or come tell you, hey, I want to give you money. The world does not work like that, and especially a highly competitive college recruiting thing where you have, maybe 1% of the high school athletic population is going to move on to a scholarship position in sports, in college. So, people wait. High school kids say, well, nobody's contacted me, or, I'm a senior and I haven't been, nobody's asked me anything. Well, if you're a graduating senior playing football right now, or any sport that's going to graduate, if you're a senior, you graduate 2015. So that makes you class of 2015. If you go on ESPN or any major sport or recruiting website, you're going to see that most revenue sports are already listed, but even the non-revenue sports probably have their 2015 recruiting class already, pretty much announced and sewn up, 70, 80, maybe 90% of the way there. And, so a lot of people are like, well, I still have my senior season to play. I'm hoping to get, discovered or found. If you don't have an offer, or if you're not talking to somebody by the time you're a senior, I don't want to say it's too late, but you are way, way behind, the timeline. So
push luck.
Yeah. Yeah. So my biggest piece of advice, or the mistake that I see the most, is, A, waiting for them to come to you, and B, waiting until your senior year to start. If you're, and now I guess now we can kind of get into what people can do to be proactive or to, enhance their chances.
I want to piggyback off some of that. I have some facts here that can really illuminate what you just stated. 3% of high school athletes receive scholarships upon graduation. 3.
All right. Yeah.
Of that 3%, 1% receive 4-year scholarships. Just 1. Of that 3%, just 1%. 84% of your D1 prospects that you were just talking about that are on ESPN, you'll see them in February during National Signing Day. Those prospects were identified by coaches and scouts before their sophomore year in high school. I know in the basketball community, a lot of their prospects, they see these guys as early as 7th grade. Mm-hmm. They're not even waiting for them to get out of middle school or junior high school. 7th grade, they're going to their AAU games and their travel team games, and they're scouting and they're watching them. And by the time they get to high school, they're already, giving verbal commitments. Mm-hmm. So you really do not have time to, afford yourself to wait until senior year and try to get a scholarship. It's almost anything.
Case in point for that, we have 3 softball players in the gym at House of Strength right now who are underclassmen. Actually, 2 of them are about to start their junior season this fall, and the other is a sophomore. But last year, as 1 freshman and 2 sophomore, they all were heavily recruited and had been for a long time. The 2 sophomores have already committed. And the one who was a freshman and will be a sophomore this year has already started receiving offers and is in contact with, coaches all around the country. And we're talking, SEC, ACC, elite level schools. So, I think that it just kind of piggybacks and is a real world example of what we're saying. If you are an athlete or the parent of an athlete with aspirations of playing in college, you need to do everything in your power to get the recruiting process rolling as early as possible. We're talking middle school to freshman year. And we're going to give some examples and some ideas on how we can do that coming up here in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to touch on something. So, Mark, you just said that 3% of athletes coming out of high school get scholarship offers. Only 1% get a 4-year offer.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked the other day when we were discussing doing this podcast that a lot of people are under the misconception that a scholarship, even a full ride, isn't necessarily guaranteed 4 years. So explain to us how scholarships work now where, it's you get a year at a time.
At the D1 level, well, I'll start with this. The reason why it's like that is because from those stats that I gave earlier, 26% of student athletes that enroll in college under an athletic scholarship as freshmen are no longer even enrolled by the end of their sophomore year. Because of this.
What was that number again? Just repeat that.
26%.
Wow.
So that's
a quarter.
1 in every 4.
Yeah. Because
of that, at the D1 level, they have now created an option where they don't have to guarantee you 4-year full rides. They don't even use the term full ride anymore. A lot of times they give you a full scholarship, but that's for a year, and that's renewable based on your performance on the field, in the classroom, on the court, in the classroom. Mm-hmm. You have a certain criteria you have to have as far as GPA, obviously, and then based on, your coaches, your performance is judged by them, and whether or not you meet their criteria is whether you'll keep your scholarship or renew your scholarship for the next year.
Wow. So, that's 1 in 4. That's a crazy number. And part of me wonders if that number is skewed by the fact that so many athletes in it, especially basketball, are one and done, go to the NBA. I'm just curious to know, if that skews it or not. But I think we all understand and realize that a lot of people get involved in college sports and decide that that's not for them for whatever reason. But that's still a startlingly high number.
Right. Yeah, and some of it, I guess, it has to contribute a little bit. But there are other sports that allow you to go, early professional too. Golf, tennis.
Yeah. Baseball's 3 years.
Baseball, yeah. So, there's a lot of contributing factors. But at the end of the day, 1 out of every 4, all of them aren't going pro. Some of them drop out. Some of them quit their sport and, go back to where they were. And, it's a lot of different factors to it. But
well, I think we've thrown a lot of stuff out there that's going to be kind of eye-opening for a lot of people. Let's kind of bring it together and give people listening some things that they can do to be proactive and to enhance their opportunity of being recruited. What kind of tips or advice would you give people?
The first thing I would say is obviously start the process early, and the process is not just getting your son or daughter involved in their sport and taking them to camps and having them play on travel teams and everything, but build relationships with coaches. Mm-hmm. Express what your desires are for your kid. I mean, you're the parent, you know what's best for your child, and you know what your child wants to do. Start building those relationships so by the time they get to junior and senior year, they already have a plan in place with the people that they've been coached by. So they know, hey, I've seen them since they were in 7th grade. Their grades are up. They've developed as great players or whatever, and you get a scholarship that way. Another thing is making sure your grades and your SAT scores are where they need to be. I mean, it's different things you can do, study halls, tutors, but whatever you need to do to keep those grades up,
And by grades up, I mean, people don't have to be 4.0 students. You just have to show that, you care, you put effort in, and, you're not lazy and a slacker.
Absolutely.
So.
And again, like you said, you don't have to be a 4.0, but you have to be above what the expectations are for, your school. And if you test well, that can actually make up the difference between your GPA and your test score. So you want to take that practice SAT as soon as you can so you can take the SAT or the ACT as soon as you can. That's another mistake that I've personally seen. People wait till junior and senior year to take the SAT. You need to be taking that freshman and sophomore year. You don't need to wait till senior year to take that.
Yeah, not only that, but here's something with that is, I mean, I can remember taking the PSATs as a freshman in high school, and as soon as I got my scores back, I started receiving, letters from colleges based on the scores from a practice SAT. If you're an athlete looking for a scholarship, we just mentioned how hard it is, especially in non-revenue sports, to get a full athletic scholarship. If you can pull academic scholarship to make up some of that difference, then you're only enhancing your full package there. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you take the PSAT as a freshman, and you score well enough so that one of these schools who's interested in you athletically says, oh, well, maybe we could give you a 40% scholarship for sports, and the academic side can give you a 40% offer as well. So now you're looking at an 80% scholarship. And even though you may be in a non-revenue sport, only 40% of that is kind of coming out of the budget that your specific team has. So schools look for things like that. They love to be able to package deals that way, so that they can help you, they can get you in, but they can also spread their small allotment of scholarships around to as many players, student athletes as they can. And just like you said, Mark, just simply taking that. A lot of people don't test well. A lot of people need to practice. So the more times you practice it, the better you're going to get.
Yeah, you can't wait too late to take it, because say, your first score is mediocre, it'll get you into certain colleges if your GPA is high enough, but taking it again might get you into that dream college if you score higher. So you want to make sure you give yourself enough time to take the practice, take the first SAT, and then take it again. I know with mine was okay the first time I took it, and I got accepted. But when I took it the second time, I got even higher. Mm-hmm. So, you want to give yourself time to take it if you don't score as well on the first one, so you can take it on the second one. And you want to do all this before your senior year, definitely.
Definitely. And here's something that I've noticed. Like I said, we've been fortunate enough to have several athletes at House of Strength who have gotten scholarships, full rides to big time SEC schools, and some other D1 schools. So the one common thread that I see with all of them is that, they've all gotten those offers as underclassmen well before their senior season, but they've gone to camps all the time. They play on the best travel teams possible. They get themselves out there. They get seen. They network. They make connections. Just like you were saying earlier, they make their intentions known. Every coach knows, hey, this girl's not playing for, just because she wants something to do on the weekends, mm-hmm. Or this young man wants to do this, in college and at the next level, not just, to hang out and have fun. So go to camps, whether it's football, softball, basketball, whatever. And when you're there, don't just, hang out with the other athletes and, shoot the shit. You need to introduce yourself to the coaches running the camp. Or, I can remember basketball camps where players on the team were the coaches for the camp, where they helped work the camps. Get in with those guys. If you're in high school, and there's a freshman, that's going to be your teammate if you end up going there, in 3 or 4 years. So start to develop those networks, meet the coaches, and, anything that you can do to, be memorable, be seen, be noticed, be known, is only going to help. I mean, that's what we were saying earlier, where if you're in New York City and you're trying to stand out from the crowd, or if you are that big fish in a small pond, you know, you've got to do something to make somebody even look in the direction of that small pond.
Right. And that goes a long way with coaches when you do everything you can to stand out. They want somebody unique to stand out for their program. So if they see that kind of dedication and they see you going above and beyond, then they're going to be more likely to remember you versus everybody else. Even if they're better, quote unquote, they see the effort that you put in. Coaches notice that, and that goes a long way with them. And I think that's an overlooked part of the recruiting process. It's just something that sounds that basic can be the difference maker sometimes.
Yeah. And a lot of times too at those camps, you know, as an underclassman, coaches are not allowed to contact you. But in those camps, they can talk to you, they can see you. And I know from experience with some of the athletes that we have at House of Strength, they would go to camps, they would meet the coaches. The coaches would say, you know, this is what I want you to work on, this is what I want you to do. And even though the coach can't call you, they can answer your phone calls. So there's a lot of things where, you know, you can kind of get around regulations. Let's just say that I'm a football player and the coach told me that, you know, he wants me to do this and this. And, you know, I shoot him an email and say, hey, you know, next week I'm going to call at, you know, 10 a.m. And that coach may actually be in the office, or they'll let you know when they will be available to answer the phone call. They can't call you back if they miss it. So you schedule it, you call, and, you know, you called them. They didn't call you. So it's not a recruiting violation. But none of that ever happens if you don't make that connection and meet those coaches and do those things on your own. So I think being proactive in your own recruiting process is the number one thing that somebody can do. The other thing is, like you said earlier, Mark, get film. If you are a serious athlete, you've got to have film of yourself, and it's got to be out there. Put it on YouTube, but definitely get it to the recruiting websites, you know, whether it's Carolina Collegiate Recruiters, you know, Scouts Inc., Rivals. A lot of coaches go to these sites as a database so that they can see the film. And the film is the first step in the process. If you don't look good on film, then nobody's going to come watch you play in person. And, you know, with the expense and time involved in travel, especially if you are one of those people in a small pond, the first, I guess, criteria that a coach is going to look at is your film. And, you know, if you don't pass that, then, you know, that's going to save them a trip. So
try to get that edited too. Edit it to where they see you on the field, but you can also show pictures of you or video of you training, practicing. You know, they want to know that you're just not all talent, that you put work in outside of just rolling the balls out and going on the field. They want to see you, okay, he's not only a great on-field player or talent, but I see him in the weight room. I see him on the practice field leading all the drills. That, again, goes a long way. And you want to make sure you have quality film to send these coaches because they're swamped. And they can go on YouTube and find film of anybody. Any average Joe can put a film on YouTube. You want to make sure that you get out on these recruiting websites, especially Carolina Collegiate Recruiters, put it on there and get somebody to edit it and cut it right. You know, it doesn't have to be long, but what it has to do is stand out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, and you can review film for folks, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so as one of those, as we talked about earlier, Mark is he's the first line of three. So if you are an aspiring athlete and you want Mark to review your film, they can email it to you, right?
They can email it to me, mcwhittington2@gmail.com. I can take a look at that, but again, I want the whole package if you're serious. So I want to see transcripts if you have them, test scores, and film. The quicker I can get those, the quicker we can jumpstart the process, and I can get you in front of all the people that you need to be in front of, so you can get to where you want to go.
We're going to put all this stuff in the show notes. So if you're listening, don't worry about trying to write all that stuff down. We will have show notes. We'll have Mark's email. So if you are an aspiring athlete, you can send him that information, as well as links to some of the websites that we've talked about. Of course, Carolina Collegiate Recruiters. But before we close this up, we want to talk about some of the things that we're going to be doing at House of Strength to not only leverage the recruiting abilities that we have now with Mark, but also to bring more to our athletes in our area. So one of the things that Mark is going to set up is a monthly free recruiting evaluation. So once a month at House of Strength, we're going to have Mark take collegiate hopeful athletes through an evaluation. They'll be able to be seen by a recruiter. What else is going to go on in that session, Mark?
Well, with that, as a monthly session, we just want to see athletes basically in a basic athletic metrics. We're measuring, speed, quickness, agility. Some of them we may be doing strength, but we want to keep that as basic as possible, because we just want to see if, they are as good as they say they are. And if they are, then we can take the next step. But we're just using basic metrics. Now, on a bigger scale, we will have eventually, I know Carolina Collegiate Recruiters already does it, but we will actually have combines. Now, the combines are sport specific. The evaluations that we're talking about now, those are for any athlete. Whatever you play, softball, baseball, basketball, track, whatever. We just want to see you and put you through an assessment and get you, in the process. But on a larger scale, it would be more sports specific. Carolina Collegiate Recruiters actually has a deal with NAIA sports and stat testing, and it is actual laser testing for combines for every sport. So no matter what sport you play, whether it's, you can be field hockey, lacrosse, whatever, they have the testing, the official testing for that. And they actually sanction all of the combines that Carolina Collegiate Recruiters put on. So.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll be doing in the future, like you said, Mark, and it'll be seasonal. So, we'll have football, we'll have basketball, we'll have all of the sports-specific big combines. So, hey, girls basketball is going to be on this day, and, that's all that's coming, and all of the tests will be specific to that sport. So that's a good point there to kind of differentiate the seasonal sports-specific combines compared to the monthly free evaluations. Those monthly evaluations, that's not necessarily a camp. It's not a recurring thing for you as a singular athlete. That's something that we'll do on a recurring basis. So if you can't make it in September, then you could come in October. And that's kind of, you come once, you get assessed, you get seen, and when you finish, we'll be able to prescribe to you, a prescription going forward for, hey, this is where your strengths lie. These are the things that you should continue to develop. But also, here are some holes or weaknesses in your, resume, and this is how you can fix it or bring those things up, turn them into strengths, and kind of bulletproof or make your resume a lot more attractive to those recruiters. Should those weaknesses lie in the physical realm, whether it's speed, agility, explosiveness, raw strength, then, hey, you just happen to be in the gym, and we know a couple people that can help you fix that, right?
Absolutely. If it's athleticism you're looking for, you come to House of Strength, then you're in the right place.
Yep. And you guys have a deal too, right? So if somebody is training at House of Strength in the collegiate recruiting process, there's a discount.
Yes, if you do both the training and sign up for the recruiting process through Carolina Collegiate Recruiters, we actually ironed out a deal where we take off about $200 if you buy a package. Now, the only thing we're asking is for a 3-month commitment, because we want to make sure on both ends, the recruiting end and the training end, that we're doing, and we have time enough to do everything we need to do to get you better and off to college playing your sport.
And let's be clear on that too. In order to get that combo deal, that's up to the recruiting specialist. That's not something that at House of Strength we have control over. I mean, we'll train. If you want to train, then we train you. But to get
Right.
that combo deal, you have to get through all three lines of the recruiting process, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay. But if you just want to get bigger, stronger, faster as an athlete, then definitely get into House of Strength. And then we'll try to connect you with the recruiting people and get you, as far as we can take you into that recruiting process.
Absolutely. Bigger, stronger, faster is what we do at House of Strength. So we already got that part covered.
That's right.
Now we're just adding another layer to it with the recruiting service.
Yep. The idea is to just kind of take our people by the hand and lead them, right into the front door of college.
Absolutely.
So, well, that's awesome. So, Mark, we're gonna wrap this up. We'll put your email in the show notes, the website for Carolina Collegiate Recruiters. One more time, what if people are going to email you? What should they include in the email?
I need to see grades, test scores, and video first, and from there we can go forward. I'd like to sit down with them, but we can schedule that based on the email and your availability. But let me know what sports you play, obviously, and then the basic metrics of your test scores and weighted GPA, and some video, and we can go from there.
All right. So, Mark, you know how we close our podcast, so we're not going to let you get away without the 1-2 close. So you got to answer one question in two parts. Part A is on topic. What is the biggest take home that listeners can get from this podcast?
I think the biggest takeaway is this is a very complicated process, and the later you wait to start it, if you're serious about going forward with, sports in college, the more difficult it will be. So the earlier, the better.
All right. I would definitely agree with that. So that's awesome right there. Get started early, be proactive, and don't wait. Part B, Mark, off topic. If you could impart one piece of wisdom or advice to our listeners, just to generally kick more ass and live life the way they want to live it, what would you tell people?
Laugh at your problems, because they're not going to last forever. So laugh it off and keep it moving.
All right. That's good stuff, man. Thank you guys for listening. That ends our episode 18, how to get recruited, how to get a college scholarship. Make sure that you check out houseofstrengthgym.com. You will see the blog version of this podcast if you're not already watching it there. That way you can get the show notes that we've talked about, click on the links, shoot the emails, and check out the resources that we've talked about here. If you're not already on the House of Strength newsletter, make sure you sign up there so that you can stay up to date on all the things that we're doing, just like what we talked about here with the monthly recruiting evaluations, the seasonal combines. We've got explosive seminars, so much more. If you're on the newsletter, you're going to stay up to date on all that. Until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you soon.